The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on Victoria Island, turning the asphalt into a shimmering haze. Behind the row of upscale restaurants that catered to executives and expatriates, 12-year-old Kofi crouched beside an overflowing dumpster. His thin frame was swallowed by an oversized threadbare t-shirt that had once been white. Flies buzzed around his head as he sorted through the waste with quick, practiced movements. He wasn't looking for food today. Shadow, the mangy brown dog who had followed him for the past year, lay whimpering a few feet away. The paw was swollen, hot to the touch, and streaked with pus. Kofi needed money for antibiotics, anything he could sell or trade. A cracked phone screen, an unopened bottle of water, even aluminum cans would do. Kofi had learned to survive alone after the market fire that took his parents 3 years earlier. He knew every shortcut, every safe corner, every security guard who might slip him leftover rice. But lately, survival had become dangerous for a different reason. They called him Witch Boy. It started innocently enough. He had a habit, learned from his late grandmother, of talking softly to plants as he passed roadside weeds or struggling tomato vines in community gardens. Sometimes after he whispered to them and gently pressed the soil around their roots, the leaves would lift as if revived. Vendors noticed. Children noticed. Then a neighbor's feverish baby cooled down hours after Kofi pressed a damp moringa leaf to its forehead. In a city where economic hardship pressed on everyone, people looked for someone to blame when luck turned sour. Sales dropped. A child fell ill. Rain ruined unsold goods. And there was always Kofi. Quiet, strange, parentless, passing by. Today, the whispers had become shouts. There he is, the witch boy. Kofi's head snapped up. 4 vendors, led by Jide, a burly man who sold recharge cards and phone accessories, were marching toward him, sticks and empty plastic bottles raised. You cursed my stall, Jide roared. Ever since you walked past, nobody buys from me. I didn't do anything, Kofi's voice cracked. He grabbed the half loaf he'd found and bolted, Shadow limping desperately behind. The chase exploded through the back streets. Kofi's bare feet slapped against hot concrete as he darted between parked Okadas and startled pedestrians. Shouts echoed behind him. Catch him! Don't let the witch escape! Tension coiled in his chest like a spring. One wrong turn, one stumble, and the mob would have him. He cut through a narrow passage between 2 buildings, scraping his shoulder raw on rough concrete. Bursting onto the main road, he wove through blaring traffic. A hand grabbed the back of his shirt, Jide's thick fingers. Kofi twisted, heart pounding so hard he thought it would burst. In that moment, a sleek black Mercedes SUV screeched to a halt inches from them. The driver leaned on the horn. Chaos erupted. Horns, shouts, tires smoking. Kofi wrenched free and vanished into the opposite alley, Shadow at his heels. He didn't know it yet, but someone in that SUV had seen his face clearly. In an air-conditioned mansion on Banana Island, billionaire Elias Ocon stood motionless at the window of his private study. The Atlantic Ocean stretched beyond the glass, calm and indifferent. Upstairs, his only child, 14-year-old Amina, lay dying. 6 months earlier, she had been full of life, debating politics with him, sneaking out to concerts, dreaming of studying medicine in London. Now her body was betraying her, ravaged by a rare autoimmune disorder that attacked her organs one by one. The best doctors in the world had flown in. Experimental treatments had failed. Machines kept her alive, but only just. That morning, the lead physician had pulled Elias aside. "We're looking at days, sir, perhaps less." Elias hadn't slept since. He scrolled through his tablet in a daze when the local news alert appeared. Mob chases homeless witch boy through Victoria Island after alleged curses on traders. He nearly dismissed it. Superstition in 2025? Absurd. But the attached video stopped him cold. A grainy clip showed a small boy whispering over a drooping roadside plant. Moments later, the leaves lifted, greener, stronger. Comments flooded in. Miracle, juju, devil's work. Elias stared. Logic screamed that it was coincidence. Light tricks, editing. But grief as a way of opening doors you once kept firmly locked. He pressed the intercom. Find that boy. Bring him here, discreetly. Kofi huddled under the third mainland bridge as darkness fell, sharing his scavenged bread with shadow. The city lights glittered above like a world he could never touch. Headlights swept the underside of the bridge. 3 men in dark suits emerged from an SUV. Kofi? One asked calmly. He scrambled backward, ready to run again. We're not here to hurt you, the man continued. A girl is very sick. Her father believes you might be able to help her. Before Kofi could protest, gentle but firm hands guided him and Shadow into the vehicle. The gates that closed behind them led to a palace of marble, glass, and silence. Elias waited in the foyer, eyes red from sleepless nights. They say you heal with plants, he said without preamble. My daughter is dying. Save her, and I will give you anything. Money, a home, protection. Kofi's throat went dry. I'm not a witch, sir. My grandmother taught me about herbs. That's all. Then use what she taught you. Elias led him upstairs to a bedroom that smelled of antiseptic and fear. Amina lay pale beneath white sheets, machines beeping a slow rhythm of warning. Kofi approached slowly. He recognized some signs, the heat radiating from her skin, the shallow breathing, the way her body seemed to fight itself. His grandmother had treated similar imbalances with plants. I need fresh. Moringa, aloe vera, ginger, bitter kola, neem leaves, he whispered. Elias didn't hesitate. Within an hour, his staff returned from the night markets with everything requested. Kofi worked quietly, grinding leaves into paste, boiling roots into tea, murmuring the old names and instructions his grandmother had drilled into him. He applied the poultice to Amina's chest and temples, coaxed bitter tea between her lips. The room held its breath. The first night brought no miracle. Amina's fever dipped slightly, then surged again. Elias paced like a caged lion. Kofi barely slept, preparing new batches at dawn. By the third day, Amina opened her eyes briefly and whispered, "Water." Elias wept openly for the first time in decades, but hope attracted danger. Word had leaked. By the 5th day, a crowd gathered outside the mansion gates. Vendors, curious onlookers, pastors with megaphones. Release the witch boy. He's sacrificing the girl for power. Security held the line, but tension crackled like electricity before a storm. Inside, Amina improved day by day. Color returning to her cheeks, strength creeping into her voice. Kofi became a quiet shadow in the house, preparing medicines, telling Amina stories of street life that made her laugh for the first time in months. Elias had his private labs analyze the herbal mixtures. The results stunned his scientists. Powerful natural anti-inflammatories, immune modulators, compounds that worked in synergy with modern drugs. This isn't witchcraft, one lead researcher told Elias. This is forgotten science. On the 10th night, as Kofi carried a fresh tray of medicine down the dimly lit hallway, a figure lunged from the shadows, Jide, knife gleaming. You ruined my life, he hissed. Now you live like a prince. Time to end the juju. He slashed downward. Kofi stumbled back. The tray crashed. Shadow erupted in furious barks, leaping onto Jide's arm. Guards swarmed seconds later, pinning the intruder. Under questioning, Jide broke. Falling sales, jealousy. Rumors he had spread himself to deflect blame. Fear turned to rage. The attempted attack made national news. Public opinion began to shift. Amina recovered fully by late January. Elias held a press conference on the mansion lawn. Kofi stood beside him, clean and dressed in new clothes, shadow proudly at his feet. "This boy saved my daughter's life," Elias declared to the cameras. "Not with sorcery, with knowledge. Ancient African herbal wisdom that modern medicine overlooked." He announced full scholarships for 200 street children. A new research institute blending traditional and modern medicine. Nationwide campaigns against superstition-driven violence. Some former accusers came forward with tearful apologies. Jaid was sentenced, but Elias funded education for his children, breaking the cycle. Kofi enrolled in one of Lagos's best schools. Amina became his biggest champion and friend. Elias legally adopted him, not out of charity, but genuine love. Years later, Dr. Kofi Okon would pioneer treatments that saved thousands, always crediting his grandmother and the streets that taught him resilience. Fear turns knowledge into witchcraft. Desperation turns neighbors into enemies. But courage, compassion, and the willingness to listen can turn strangers into family. As the old Nigerian proverb says, "The child who washes his hands clean dines with kings." And as Nelson Mandela reminded us, no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. May we choose love. May we choose truth. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story moved you, touched you, or made you think, please subscribe for more real-life inspired tales every week. And now I want to hear from you. What did you find most interesting in this story? Was it Kofi's quiet courage, Elias's transformation, the danger of superstition, the power of traditional knowledge? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one.